Thank you.
Call the Honourable Teriana Turia.
Tēnā koe, Mr Speaker, tēnā tātou katoa. In the speech from the throne, there was one simple statement which revealed the next steps in progressing our transformation agenda. As agreed with the Māori Party, a separate appropriation and governance structure will be established for whānau ora. This statement was a signal to us all that government has confidence in whānau ora as an approach that is premised on delivering better results for whānau. In the relationship accord, that confidence is articulated further to support the evolving focus and ongoing implementation of whānau ora. Today I want to share some of our learning and our successes in the journey of whānau transformation. The sheer numbers of whānau engaged is one tangible measure the enthusiasm with which New Zealand families are taking up these opportunities. We have 25 provider collectives representing 160 provider organisations currently delivering to and engaging whānau and families. At least 2,000 whānau plans representing more than 15,000 family members have set their whānau planning activities in motion through involvement in the Whānau Investigation, Innovation and Engagement Fund. In addition, 1,000 whānau are actively navigated to access existing services through our 25 provider collectives. But although the numbers are important, the overriding interest for me has been on the outcomes. Are we seeing successful whānau across a broad range of situations? Let's be clear. This is high-risk business with the potential for a high return. There is no quick fix solution to achieve the well-being of families.
Point of order, the Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr Speaker, in accordance with numerous Speaker's rulings and standing orders, I ask that the member table the speech instead of reading it.
The Honourable Teriana Turia.
Let's be clear. This is high-risk business with the potential for high return. There is no quick fix solution to achieve the well-being of families, but we have to invest time, energy and resources in family to be self-managing.
We have a point of order from the Honourable Trevor Mallard. I ask the member to resume his seat, please. There is the Standing Orders Committee of late last year, which is now to be commonplace within the House, is that speeches are not to be read, and the Honourable Trevor Mallard, that's why he asked that the speech be tabled. We can refer to speeches, but we can't read them verbatim. So I'd ask the member in her remaining time to actually, while she can use that as guidance for her speech, is rather than reading it verbatim, to be able to just refer to it in the context of which she wishes to speak this afternoon. The Honourable Teriana Turia.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Teriana Turia.
We were not advised of the change to standing orders to say that speeches couldn't be written and spoken to in the House. And
I'll ask the member to resume his seat. Last year, the last thing before the Parliament, before we rose, was that the new standing orders of Parliament were actually adopted by the House. And so from this year on, this is what is going to be the accepted practice. Now, I know if you're hearing this for the first time, it's to all members in the future that they must only refer to their speech notes as that, as opposed to a minister who may be speaking directly to a bill in their name. And the exception also is to new members who are making their maiden statements. So that's the ruling, and I'll ask the member just to use her notes that she has as reference points for the balance of her speech.
One other point is that it was a decision of the Standing Orders Committee, of which Mr Flavel was her representative.
The Honourable Tauhanari.
I'm wondering whether we can get around this, because it is obviously a new standing order. It's obviously passed some of us by, and maybe with the good grace of the House, now that we do know, maybe we could start tomorrow afresh.
Order, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Trevor Mallett.
In order to join my friend in his suggestion, rather than start tomorrow, maybe from the end of the speech, I seek leave for the Minister currently reading her speech to be allowed to complete her speech reading it.
Leave is sought for that purpose. Is there an objection? There is no objection. The Honourable Tariana Turia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the House. And I would dare anyone in this chamber to declare raising families as a walk in the park, because we all know the challenges that come with raising children in today's world. The circumstances of daily life can at times be very stressful, even for the best of families. And for some families, their circumstances become overwhelming. There are so many compounding factors, with poverty underpinning most factors. Successive administrations have attempted to intervene in circumstances of crisis, but in too many times the intervention itself has simply created another obstacle in the path of the family in need. A brave government would admit that the state is not the ultimate solution. A bold government would be prepared to put its trust in the people, to acknowledge their potential, to enable whānau to set their own direction to make change happen. This indeed is the hub of the political challenge, to find the point of equilibrium between being prudent accountability of public funds and an environment to support the diversity of whānau aspirations. I want to remind those who have spoken out in anger against what they see as a one-man crusade to undermine whānau ora. That whānau ora has always been about more than politicians and political parties. Indeed, it has never relied on Parliament as a moral guarantor, and nor should it. For essentially, the success of whānau ora has been due to a rising tide of confidence and local solutions that we trace back over many, many decades. It has emerged from the momentum of whānau to create a secure foundation for our mokopuna to benefit from, and the majority of our whānau do this without state intervention. Whānau ora did not just come along in 2012. We saw the genesis of the approach in Pōao Te Atatu, in Tū Tangata, in the Kōhangareo movement, in the Hui Taumata of 1984. And the call was for broad whānau hapu and iwi to determine, run and control their own initiatives. The funding for these moves would come from the so-called negative spending that went into picking up the pieces. A fundamental premise in this journey was to encourage the state to place faith in the capacity of families to achieve outcomes which could lead to their full participation within society. This has not changed a generation on in our current environment, where there has been significant change in our economic, social and cultural environment. This journey is predicated on an investment in an Indigenous approach, an approach based on Māori cultural foundations, built around a communal approach to well-being. Indeed, it has been available to all who want to participate in this approach, and we've been there before. Indeed, in this House 21 years ago, in April 1991, a politician rose in the appropriation debate to give voice to a view which might well have come out of whānau ora. The Minister of Māori Affairs at that time said, and I quote, "It's not for central government to determine for tribes their shape, their character or their form," and that policy was supported by Māoridom. The government would work in a voluntary way with every tribe, with every sub-tribe, even with family, but it would be oppressive and culturally offensive to hold out the taxpayer's chequebook and say either you conform or we won't deal with you. That politician was Winston Peters, and I hope he can appreciate the contribution that Kawatea also made to a journey that we are now seeing the fruits of through the success of whānau ora. I said before that whānau ora is a high-risk business. Why wouldn't it be when we know the impact that circumstances can have on already fragile lives? But if it is high risk, it is also high return, and that return has been evidenced in three ways. We've seen strategic leadership and regional championing, bringing together knowledge, expertise and experience of community members and government processes to benefit the wellbeing of whānau. We're observing systemic change, progressive and incremental success, demonstrated by integrated contracts, multi-year funding, multi-year planning and the accompanying action research to inform quality improvement and to evidence outcomes. And most importantly, we are seeing the value, benefit and success of whānau transformation as they build their capability and become the vehicle for their own change. Whānau Ora is about transforming our futures. It is being realised in outcomes across social, cultural and economic dimensions. One of the most significant aspects is the planning to create intergenerational transfers of knowledge and values to put an end to cycles of despair and to pave a way in which whānau aspirations are able to be fostered. Our next steps are in extending whānau ora to the Kaipara, Hauraki, South Waikato, Taupo and Tūrangi, Palmerston North, Wairarapa, Levin and Kapiti Coast and Murihiku. We are championing an inclusive approach, an approach which is driven by a focus on outcomes, and that approach, while fundamental to the opportunities and gains for whānau, also comes back to government. And so I conclude my contribution today with an assurance to the House that we can have every confidence in the whānau ora approach and that it will continue to evolve. Despite the amount of resourcing distributed across government departments and to a range of agencies, there is an unfair expectation that whānau ora is the panacea for everything. We all have the responsibility to be responsive and to practice whānau ora. It can begin with us all modelling hope and placing value in a vision for tomorrow, the translation of our highest hopes into strong whānau who will lead communities throughout Aotearoa. Thank you, Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Tim Grosser.
Mr Speaker, I